Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome to the messy bedroom.
Yes, here it is. This is the nest.
Yeah, and this is how you might find the bed at any time.
At any given time, really. I mean, books piled to the left, books piled to the right, books.
So there's been a lot of questions and recommendations, people saying, what books should I read for this subject or that subject to, expand my outlook on things. As, so many people in our Western end of the world are maybe very familiar with the Bible. Maybe they're familiar with the Kabbalah. Maybe they're familiar with Hermeticism, some of the Gnostic works. But how about, some of the jewels of the East?
These are very, 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 I think they're important. And I really wish we would see more of these in school, because a lot of this is like roadmaps for life, which is absolutely beautiful.
Yes, most definitely. There was a time in my life when I had a library of several thousand books. Now, that was when I was rooted in one place for 17 years without moving. And so I did give a lot away over the years. And then, I have found that there were some things I didn't want to do without, so I've reacquired copies of. And so I wanted to just share with you some of the ones that I would say impacted me the most.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mike is more of the reader. I kind of flip through it. I'm dyslexic, so it's really hard for me, but I do pick up a lot of information. Like if Mike has a question, I can channel the answer. So this is how we work it. And sometimes we have like story nights too. So he reads to me. So it's great.
It is, and one of the things that we've gotten from the guides, it's interesting that whenever we talk about something, even these great works, like, for instance, the Bhagavad Gita, of which I have a couple copies, and the Mahabharata, which the Bhagavad Gita is a portion of the Mahabharata. Maha means great. Bharata is actually a name for India, so it's kind of like the great Indian classic, so to speak. The Bhagavad Gita, again, is a section of it. And when we talk to the guides about these things, what do they say? Do they say that, yes, you must listen to every word of this? This is the absolute truth, there is no truth but this truth. No, they say, well, these are stories that could be helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Life stories where these beings felt like if they could pass on this information to a human mind where we could understand and apply it to our lives, it would amplify our life and make our life a little bit brighter.
And so, always approaching something new with an open mind and trying not to get dogmatic about things. Dogma ultimately divides. Dogma divides us into all these different subcategories. When we become too dogmatic, it's just not a good thing. It's going to lead to a dead-end road.
When someone says something to you that you feel you understand differently, or you know differently, or that you learned differently, and I wouldn't be so quick, at least I'm not so quick anymore, to say, well, no, that's not true. I like to listen to that person and see if I can come to yet another new understanding, and I think that's a really good thing to learn to do.
Yeah, so, where to start? I think everybody would have a different starting point depending on their background, where they're vibrating at, where their consciousness is at vibrationally, and, what they want to hear so much, too. I actually think that a good place for many people in the West to get introduced to some of these ideas is from somebody that's from the West. And, so for me, one of the key guys that just got me to want to go deeper is Richard Thompson, because this was an Englishman, I believe he was knighted too, who, basically ended up, through his research, he ended up converting to the Sanatana Dharma, which means the eternal truth, eternal way, which most of the world would recognize as Hinduism, of which there's so many different forms, just like there's so many different forms of Christianity. what was cool about him was, he was a scientist. He was interested in UFOs, interested in consciousness, and you could see, like by the titles, Alien Identities, right? Ancient Insights into the Modern UFO Phenomena. And the foreword was written by Whitley Strieber. He gets into this, like half of that book is all about UFOs, modern day UFO experience, and also looking somewhat at the ancient UFO experience. And, again, you get a little taste of the wisdom of the East in there. Then Maya, the world as virtual reality, here we're looking at through quantum physics and talking about quantum physics and how, the teachings of quantum physics go along with the teachings of most of the Eastern path. Interesting, is it not? And then the mysteries of the sacred universe. This is the cosmology of the Bhagavata Purana, which, is a fascinating subject in and of itself. How does the universe, how does the universe work, how does it lay out? It starts talking about the fact that there's so much life out there. There's worlds that are so inhabited by all these diverse beings. It actually, touches on things that there's really no way they could have known unless they were taught these things by extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, or even perhaps some of the people were of that origin themselves and remembered it.
Right. So, keeping an open mind when you read these books, I think that really helps with your understanding.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to get started if you haven't touched anything. And it's just if you're interested in conspiracy, extraterrestrials, aliens, cosmology, and the spiritual side of things. For many people, Autobiography of a Yogi was their, original book.
Very, very, very good book. Highly recommended.
Yeah, and it's just about one person's life and their experiences. So what was it like to be a yogi? What was it like to live in India and then come over and try to teach those in the West? Wonderful book. Now, Yogananda wrote these, which is the Bhagavad Gita, Royal Science of God Realization. And that's, again, a classic. That's his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, which again is a portion of the Mahabharata, which is thought to be India's greatest epic along with the Ramayana. And then he also wrote about the second coming of Christ, which is not about waiting for Yeshua, Jesus, to appear in the sky. It's about the second coming of Christ within you and me and all of us.
Yeah, I think that's really, really a good point because it does come from within, and that's what a lot of this teaches is the energy within.
And both of these are 2-volume sets. They're very large, so they take a while to go through. And they're also ones that you might want to read a little bit of and absorb. Now, if you, gosh, there's so many ways to approach this. Really, there really, really is. I think a lot of people would go into the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and read those great epics. And, this one is a great one to share with kids or anybody just because it's just gorgeous. And so there's so many illustrations in here, photos in here, talking all about it. It makes it so easy to really get into the classic.
And to give like a really rounded understanding to your kids, I think if children were in the 6th grade, this wouldn't be a bad book to help them understand the world they live in a little bit better and understand different philosophies and different paths and different beings. It would just be really diverse and maybe they would find an interest in it.
Yeah, it's really an incredible book. And I'm holding off on getting a new copy of the Ramayana until it's available. I think it's around December 10th or 12th. The same people that put this together, the illustrated Mahabharata, are putting together the Ramayana version. and that's going to be just gorgeous too. So, if you want to look at the epics, which will keep you in it, cliff dwell, what's it? Not cliff dwelling, cliffhangers, cliffhangers. Excitement. All the drama. Those are great ways to go. If you are, very adventurous and studious, and you really want to go deep, the Shiva Sutras is awesome. At this, along with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, would be my preferred two, as far as uncovering the deepest mysteries of what consciousness is. Now here, you'll read a little bit, and you're just gonna meditate on it, dwell on it, let it sink in. It's very, very deep stuff. Now, for me, these two are just awesome must-haves. If you like the parables of the Bible, then, the Upanishads, which are basically kind of like commentaries on the Vedas themselves. Now, the Vedas could be like reading Leviticus, in that there's a lot there that can be feeling repetitive and dry. There's the 4 Vedas. This, as you can see, is in relatively small print. And this takes a long time to go through. And it might not catch you. You got to I think you got to get prepped to actually read those, which you can get prepped by first reading some commentaries if you are of that mindset, where, some will go ahead and explain the teachings of the Vedas ahead of time. And then there's others that just want to be exposed to them themselves. Right. Either way is fine. It's whatever you want to do.
It is. It's about going within and listening to what you want to do. We have more control over our souls than we think, than we're taught. So it's all about going within, seeing what works for you.
And when we want to experience, like we were saying, the parables, to me, reading the Upanishads is like reading the best parables, the best teachings of the Bible. Very similar to the very, very best writings that you get in the Bible. But, clear explanations in a story manner of these teachings that are in the Vedas. So, that would be another good place to start. And, it's the Upanishads come after the Vedas, but you might want to start reading the Upanishads first. Everybody, again, is different. So, again, you got to kind of feel it out for yourself. If you're into jumping right into the depth of things, then go with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali or the Shiva Sutras. Fascinating, very, very deep, all about, what is consciousness in and of itself. And Kashmiri Shaivism is fascinating in and of itself. And so, I've read in depth into it. You have the Reality Sutras. That didn't take too long to get through. And then, again, Hinduism is vast. So, there's those that follow the path of the goddess, Shakti. And now these are very easy reads. For me, these are more like dessert books. So you see Shakti, the realm of the Divine Mother. The Science of the Rishis is a great one. Who are the Rishis? They're the ones that gave us the Vedas. You could view them as ascended masters, if you will. So, those are just fun books. Bhakti is a form of yoga. It's devotion. And so these are tales and teachings from the Bhagavata Purana. Beautiful, beautiful book as well. And the Lalita Sahasrana Ramana is also a book that's devoted to the goddess. And, there's so many you can go with, so many that you could start branching out to understand, the other side of things. The Divine Mother, that whole principle. We have Shakti rising as well over here. And we do get into a lot of the individual manifestations of the mother, for instance, the Bodhisattva of compassion. That's all about the life of Kuan Yin. And again, that's one that's just very easy to read and to just absorb. There's a lot of these little small books. You see the teachings of Ramakrishna, Raha Yoga, Karma Yoga. There's so many different types of yoga as well.
Right. So, I mean, there's so much to choose from. Even I look at this and I just totally get overwhelmed. But like tonight, if I had to just choose one. Okay, I can't just choose one. I'd have to be looking at the Upanishads or the Yoga Sutras just, to get some of this into your system. So you know what you might like after that.
Yeah, most definitely. This is a great book too. It's a systematic course in the ancient tantric techniques of yoga and Kriya. Kriya just means action. And so this is actually kind of like a day-by-day guide to a very, very comprehensive practice.
Yes, that one was really cool because, gosh, it goes into detail, which is really helpful.
Extreme detail on every aspect of things, from diet to, meditative practice to actual yoga practice, like Hatha yoga principles as well as Kriya yoga principles. We have this one over here. This is Sri Vedanta Desikan. This is basically principles of Vaishnavism. So this is all about Vaishnavism, which is viewing Vishnu as the creator. And then, of course, there's Shaivism as well, which views Shiva as the ultimate creator. And again, it's about perspective. It's really how we view it from perspective. The reign of the Vedic gods is a good introduction to these different beings. Here we see a couple books on Ganesha, the remover of obstacles, Hanuman as well. We have books on Jain philosophy, which is, would be tough for most people. It's an extreme philosophy, but, again, it wouldn't be extreme in a 5D point of view. Of course, the Tao Te Ching is a classic. And, this would be a must read. And this is, again, one that you should take in little nuggets each day. Just contemplate and meditate on it.
Right, that's key. Nuggets, little nuggets.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the I Ching. And I couldn't locate our big book on the I Ching. And then we get into the teachings of the Buddha, of which there are many. The Dhammapada is another classic must-read. There's just so much to cover, really, there is. Gopi Krishna's classic Kundalini. Just that one. The Evolutionary Power in Man, and that's actually the inspiration for the name of the channel, was that particular book.
Very, very curious. Very good information here. And, the Gopi Krishna one, the Kundalini book, I read through that when I was going through Kundalini Awakening, and it was really, really rough on me. And I highly recommend people, before they do any Kundalini work, to really get right with themselves. Help yourself find your center. Help yourself through your traumas before, because it will kind of enhance all the traumas. If you haven't dealt with them, you're really going to deal with them when Kundalini comes around. So it's best to deal with them now. And then if you're having trouble, you're confused, it's really good to delve into Kundalini, understand it a little bit better, so that maybe you're not so afraid if something like that happens.
Exactly. So, where to start, it's up to you, really. And it depends, again, on personal preferences. And, whether you're drawn to Buddha, whether you're drawn to Confucius, whether you've heard of Yogananda and you want to go deeper into what he says about things. If you're looking at it from a more modern scientific UFO perspective, then the works of Richard Thompson might be a good place to start. If you like music and you're drawn to mantras, then you might want to look into Bhakti Yoga. And by the way, this author, Thomas Ashley Farrand, he's made some really good books on mantras that have tons of mantras in them. And, it's like everybody that we get turned on to mantras, that becomes like the turning point.
Well, it's like a huge catalyst for them. Say they're kind of stuck where they're at in their life and they don't know which direction to go. Just simply starting these mantras really can kick up the energy body and help give yourself some direction on where to go, what to do. And people's lives just continue to get better and better and better.
So I just thought we'd share that with you guys. Again, some of the ones that I go to again and again are these, the Yoga Sutras and the Shiva Sutras for pondering. I think they're fabulous just to explore the depths of consciousness. But, the Tao Te Ching, is timeless. And that's also a great one. And then, of course, all the wonderful teachings of Buddha. And, there's a lot of other people that have had tremendous influences on the Eastern mind. And, again, Jainism was just another. And the Baha'i faith. It's amazing how these people, like the founder of the Baha'i faith, was put to death at a very young age. They always try to shut up the people that want to unify. That's what this system does, and it will eliminate them if it has to.
Well, they make it very uncomfortable for you anyway.
Yep, but that time is all just about done, as we're so close to heading into an all new age.
Indeed, we are.
As always, guys, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.